Hi, it's Mick here, and in this video we're going to talk about the HANCHU Gateway and how you install it. We're going to take a real good look inside it, even put it together for you with some demonstration wires, show you how it goes together to make it really easy for you guys when you're on site.
Hi, so I'm just going to take you through the top part of the HANCHU Gateway. So once you've fully installed and wired this up, you'll have your inverter turned on, any additional critical loads, the hybrid EPS will be turned on, and your grid supply will be up here. What you're looking for when commissioning is a green light on A and a red light on B. The green light is your grid supply, and the red light on B is your EPS supply, and also you've got your chint meter here. One of the first things that you'll need to do is log into the HANCHU app, go to your inverter and change the settings from on the meter setting from Eastron to the chint meter. Once you've done that, you'll see that the communication between the inverter and the battery will be correct and all your readings will be looking right. One way of testing the gateway once everything's up and functioning is simply turning the grid supply off to the gateway. Once you do this, you should see that the automatic transfer switch flips from A to B and the entire house load power will stay on. At this point, it'd be a good time to check all your readings again. Obviously you're on backup power supply, so do all your electrical tests. Once you've done this and you're happy with that, if you turn the grid supply back on, what you'll see is that the contactor jumps from B back to A and you're back on grid supply. I'm going to take you through the electrical connections on the HANCHU Gateway. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to split the grid incoming mains from the DB board in the property, and that will need to be wired back into the gateway here. So your grid incoming supply is fed into the bottom right hand side here. So we've got the live terminal there, the neutral terminal there, and we have the earth terminal in here. Now, quite a lot of these gateways have been installed, and we have listened to all you installers that are out there. We understand that the bottom part of the gateway is really tight. So the next version you will see will be adapted, made slightly larger just to give you more room to get the tails in. So we've got the grid supply here at the bottom. The first breaker on the right hand side is for your hybrid inverter. So that is the power supply to your inverter. Once you've got that one in, the next one across, any secondary PV system that is already on that property should be connected to this one here. The reason being, in the event of a power cut, the gateway will automatically disconnect the solar array, just ensuring safe disconnection from the grid. The next one along is an additional critical load. So your additional critical load is anything that's very sensitive and always requires power, even down to minimum battery capacity. This will stay on. The next one across is your EPS input. So the EPS comes from your hybrid inverter and that will connect into here. The next one along you've got is the house low consumer unit. So you've disconnected the grid, you've put the grid supply into here. The next part is to reinstate the consumer unit in the house. So that comes out of your 100 amp breaker there. Down in the bottom left hand corner here, we've got the communication from the inverter to the gateway. That is a standard patch lead RJ45, and that's the same for both ends. When you are installing the EPS, it's also critical that you put an earth spike in. The reason being that when there is a power cut, the hybrid inverter will completely cut its ties from the grid, essentially going into islanding mode. Now, the HANCHU inverters have a built-in neutral earth bonding contactor. So in the event of a power cut, the inverter will pick up that there's no grid supply there. It will automatically pull the neutral earth bonding contactor in, at which point there is still no earth, so critical that you put an earth spike in as well. So that can be located in the bottom left hand corner here. And the last one on the end here is your EV charger. So if there's already an EV charger in the property, if you'd like to wire that back to here as well, again, in the event of a power cut, what that means is the house will carry on functioning as normal, but any high demand loads will be disconnected as to not drain your batteries too quick. As well as that, you also have your EV charger meter located at the top of the board next to your HANCHU inverter meter. Okay, so here's kind of a pre-wired system just so you can see an overview of the glands that are in the bottom here. So everything's been thought of really carefully. So there's a gland for each input into the gateway. So as you can see in the top right here, we've got the power supply to the inverter. Underneath that, we've got your grid supply incoming. If there's a secondary PV system on in the property, then that should also be powered from the gateway as well. So we've got the connection there for that. The next one along is your EPS input. So this is your emergency power supply in the event of a power cut. Underneath that, you've got your load tails coming out. So that's back to the DB board in the property. And on the left-hand side here, you've got your communication from the inverter back to the gateway and a port for your earth spike as well.